What up? Alright, well, this is a sequel to one of my last videos where I made my own all-star cast. So, if y'all haven't watched that already, make sure y'all go watch that first, because that's where I explained why I chose some of the people I chose and why I didn't choose some of the people I chose. I didn't choose. But in this video, we're going to actually be going through the season and seeing what would happen if All-Stars was actually like this. Now, this is going to be like more of a my way than like the season 3 prediction was. This is going to be like an actual all of it's mine, but there are going to be some similar things, but not a lot. Alright, well, our first episode's an intro. We just reintroduce everybody. I'm not going to have the thing with Alejandro being in the robot, because that just doesn't really work for this, since Ezekiel's already here. So Alejandro is just always part of this cast. So yeah, in episode 1 they just kind of introduced everybody, and nothing else happens that's of note that y'all haven't already heard. So in episode 2, I'm going to have the heroes win first, because I feel like that makes sense for total drama for the villains to win first. And over here, Harold and Lashana decide to make an alliance on day 1. Then there's obviously the Mike, Cameron, Zoe, Brick alliance, and they're all going to be like together. And then there's Lindsay, who I'll get to in a minute, Owen, who's just kind of here, and then Courtney and Gwen. So with Courtney and Gwen, as of now, they hate each other. Well, that's not true. Courtney hates Gwen, but Gwen comes into the season, and Gwen's already pissed at Duncan, because she really has already been angry with Duncan, because she was like, yeah, she was just, obviously she doesn't say this because it's a kid's show, but she was just horny. So obviously she doesn't actually love Duncan. So she's been getting ready to break up with him, and she really liked the time her and Courtney had together in World Tour when they were friends. So she really wants to become friends with Courtney. Courtney absolutely hates her right now, though. I already said Harold and Lashana, but Lindsay, she's not gonna be as I forgot the word, but completely retarded. That's it, I guess. As she was in the first episode of All Stars. 1, because that goes against her whole character, but 2, because I actually want her to have a reason that I've also heard in theories, similar to like the Izzy theory. I think it was by the same dude, and it's that Lindsay in All Stars, her only goal was to piss off Courtney, Heather, and Alejandro, since they wronged her. So she's like, oh, I can show you how dumb I can really be, right? Because those two have screwed with her a lot. But for this episode, the 4 of them, the Revengers over here, decide, alright, so we look at this. Courtney votes Gwen, obviously, and then we'll say it doesn't, everyone else kind of just votes wherever, except Lindsay votes Courtney, Courtney votes Gwen. So they're like, alright, well, to maximize the drama, we'll just get away the like fun loving guy. And no, they're not like the most evil people in the world, at least not yet, but they're like, it'll be the best for our game plan. So they take out Owen with 4 votes Owen, 1 vote Gwen, 1 vote Courtney, and then, which by the way, they get to see the votes this episode, but not who voted for him. That's just like a twist that he has. So Courtney thinks Gwen voted for her, so that's great for Gwen. And then Harold and Lashana and Owen will just say like, oh, they all voted. They decided to vote like, I don't know, Mike or Zoe, because she's a threat. So Owen's our first boot, which I think would be pretty shocking. So yeah. Then we move over to the villains for episode 3, because I always have, and you'll see this with a lot of mine, I always have, unless I'm doing a what if, I always have every team lose at least 1 member before it starts going out in the thing. I've just always done that when I've done my what ifs. So yeah. But over on the villains, Izzy isn't crazy. So Izzy goes with Heather. She gets Heather and she gets Ezekiel. Ezekiel's desperate to stay in the game as long as he can, since, you know, the whole getting voted out first twice thing. And also we can have like a whole thing with him celebrating a lot in episode 2 that he wasn't the first boot. And he's like not really feral anymore, at least not in this. So she gets him because she's desperate, and Heather so that she can get revenge on Alejandro. Well, not really revenge, but just get Alejandro out. And then Alejandro teams up with Justin, who has, it's going to be kind of like a more twisted version of the Caleb Rhea thing, where Justin at first manipulated Danny Maria, but very quickly they're actually going to fall in love. So this is a ship of the season, like only like ship that isn't already a thing that I'm adding. So we have these, and Alejandro's under the impression that they have a solid team of 6, and when really it's just these 3 and then these 3. But they all vote together so that they can build trust. And they look over here, and Scott has his crush on Courtney a lot earlier. We'll say like he's always had a crush on Courtney, and now Courtney's right there, and she's not with Duncan anymore. So he was talking. We'll say like he was talking to Lightning or Joe or somebody about how he was planning to ask her out. Duncan overhears this. Duncan, just like in the original All-Star season, still has feelings for Courtney for some reason, but he does. And because of that, he gets really mad, blows up Scott. Scott hates him now because, I mean, they both hate each other because they both want Courtney. So this is kind of our love triangle now. Now it's a love quadrilateral. Oh my goodness, I sound like a nerd. But yeah, so they vote. So they vote each other. Lightning votes Joe, and just because we'll just say they have a little rivalry too, but it doesn't matter because they want to keep the chaos. So they all decide, or at least Alejandro decides, and they all go along with voting out Joe. That way they can keep these two arguing. So Joe's eliminated in the 3rd episode. And then for our next episode, I think the heroes actually lose again. So yeah. And in this episode, there's a big thing. And also a big thing that I probably should mention. Mal. So Mal is going to be in the season, but I think he's actually going to be handled a lot better. And instead of Scott accidentally hitting Mike over the head with a shovel and making Mal, instead, Izzy is going to purposely make Mal come out. Now, how she's going to do this, she very easily found out about his DID and even Mal way before like anybody else did, even Zoe in the other season. She wasn't even part of that season. So now when she is part of the season, she'll see it very easily. And we can just say like Chester, Svetlana, and all the other alters or other personalities are like talking, and she can see into his head somehow, but she can, that's confirmed. So she hears them, and then since she's kind of more villainous this time around, she tells Ezekiel and Heather what she's going to do, and she basically goes over and hits him over the head with a rock after the challenge, and makes Mal come out and explains to Mal her plan, and Mal is like, okay. And then over the next couple episodes, Mike will do his whole thing where he can't find his alters, and he is worried, and then he eventually drops the rock on his head, making him Mal permanently, at least till he's not. So Izzy tells Mal to vote Cameron, and since it's Mal, not Mike, he obviously does. And then he also gets Harold and Lashana to vote Cameron because he just was like, he goes over and he starts quote unquote boasting to them about how they're all screwed because the OG cast members are so dysfunctional with like Gwen and Lindsay and Courtney. So y'all aren't gonna take us out. So that makes Lashana and Harold vote the person they think they can get easiest out in tiebreaker, which is Cameron, because obviously, unless it's like a smarts thing. So they vote Cameron, and that's 1, 2, 3 votes Cameron. And then Zoe, Cameron, and Brick all vote. Mike says they should vote Lashana to get one of them out, because he knows that Lashana is not going to be like a difficult decision whenever it comes to who's going to win in this. Either Lashana or Harold, who's going to win, or Courtney, Gwen, Lindsay, who's going to win against Cameron in the tie. But it doesn't matter because Lashana goes to Gwen, because unbeknownst to Mal, Gwen doesn't hate Courtney, even though, again, like in the original All-Stars, it looks like she does to the other contestants, which she like gives her the thing she's allergic to and shit. But Gwen also votes Cameron, and Lindsay and Courtney votes Gwen. Lindsay votes Courtney, and also it's just being I don't want to say jerk, but getting revenge on Courtney as well as the others the entire episode, as she will be for most of the time she's here. So, boom, there doesn't even need to be a tiebreaker because Cameron's out. And then the villainous vultures lose again, and this is pretty obvious. Heather really wants to eliminate Alejandro, but Izzy's like, wait, let's just do one more. And they just follow Alejandro's plan, and it's pretty obvious. They send Lightning home, and Scott and Duncan vote for each other. Then, for episode 6, the villains actually lose again, And this time Izzy's like, okay, because Heather's really itching to get rid of Alejandro. And don't worry, they still are in love with each other. And will get with each other near the end of the season. But she still wants to get back at them because that's just how it is. And by the way, there's no idols in this season. I took that out. So the three of them vote Alejandro, while they get these two to vote, or these three, they vote Scott, because they were just going to keep Duncan because Alejandro likes Duncan a little bit because they teamed up for a little bit and will tour. But Heather, Ezekiel, and Izzy, Izzy comes up to Scott and is like, hey, not only will I help you eliminate Duncan eventually, I'm actually going to also offer to help you get with Courtney. So obviously she doesn't actually care about Scott or his feelings or anything. But with that, that's enough. And Scott's like, okay, you have my vote for the next couple rounds. And with that, that's 4 votes Alejandro, 3 votes for Scott, and then 4 votes Alejandro, 4 votes Scott, because the 3 of them vote Scott. So there's a tiebreaker. And honestly, they're fine either way. Heather wanted to see him fight. That's the only reason to do that. So they're fine either way. Well, Izzy isn't. Izzy's kind of pissed because Heather told Izzy that the 3 of them, because Heather's gotten like more and more in love with Alejandro while also being more angry at him over the course of the season. So she secretly kind of is regretting having that. So she told Izzy that they were going to vote Duncan. So Izzy's pissed at Heather. But all that to say, the thing happens, the tiebreaker, and Scott does surprisingly pull out the victory, sending Alejandro home. And Heather has to act like she's not sad, but Alejandro can tell he is, flirts with her a little bit, and they end up kissing. So before Alejandro leaves a semi-happy camper. Then for our episode 7, the heroic campsters are going to lose this one, and we have Mal, who really wants to get out Zoe next. So what he does is he convinces Harold and Lashana, because like Gwen and Courtney are starting to be friends at this point, but Courtney still can't let go of her anger, especially while seeing Duncan still here, and Duncan trying to flirt with Courtney and Scott to an extent, but mainly Duncan. And which is weird because Gwen is also pissed about this, so Courtney's kind of confused but still angry that Duncan's flirting with Gwen and Courtney at the same time, while Gwen is pissed about this and is even more ready to break up. But basically Mike gets Harold, Lashana, and Lindsay to vote Zoe with him, and the way he does this is he knows Gwen's friends with Zoe, so Gwen's not going to vote Zoe. In fact, Gwen already feels kind of bad about voting Cameron, what she didn't even expect her to do. But Courtney votes Gwen, and then he gets Harold and Lashana to vote Zoe just by saying he can make an alliance with them. And while Harold and Lashana are like, that's kind of effed up to do to your girlfriend, why are you doing that? He's like, it's none of your business. They're like, okay. The 3 of them vote Zoe, and then he promises, quote unquote promises, to Lindsay that he'll help her get out Courtney if they vote Zoe. So what, she's like, okay. And then it's 2 votes for Harold, just like last time. Zoe and Brick vote Harold. It's 1 vote for, or 3 votes for Harold actually, because Gwen also votes that. 1 vote for Gwen by Courtney, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 votes Zoe, sending Zoe home in episode 7. Then for the villainous vultures, they lose again, and in this episode, Justin and Annie Maria have been like crashing out because obviously they got betrayed and they don't like that. They're pissed about it. So they're like also a little worried. They teamed up with Duncan because Duncan, I mean, it's obvious it's either Scott or Duncan teamed up with Heather, Ezekiel, and Izzy. So Duncan is like, well, it wasn't me, so I'll team up with y'all. So the 3 of them team up, and they're like, all right, well, here's what's gonna happen. We're going to have the 4 of us just vote out Annie Maria. And they're like, okay, well, this is not what you said. You said we were going to vote out Duncan next round. And Heather and Izzy are like, well, no, what we said is we were going to hope to vote out Duncan, not next round. and Scott's pissed. But Ezekiel, who's also a country boy and hasn't had like a big moment yet this season, which he's sad about, and also Heather and Izzy have just been telling him to shut up, and he doesn't really get a say in the lines. He's just kind of there for his vote, and that's it. I'm clear about that. He's like, well, I like you, Scott, so I'll help you. So Ezekiel and Scott vote Duncan. Heather and Izzy vote Annie Maria, and then Justin and Annie Maria actually choose to vote Ezekiel because they think he's gross. So Ezekiel almost gets himself eliminated, but he does win the tiebreaker, sending not just Annie Maria home, but Duncan as well. To which him and Scott are happy about, but Heather and Izzy are like, well, no, we don't trust you anymore because you betrayed us to Ezekiel. So now Ezekiel is kind of worried. So now Justin went from being endangered to kind of being the flip vote, which is kind of crazy. But for our next set, we have the heroic hamsters losing again. And we're going to say in this episode, Gwen and Courtney become friends again. And Lindsay just cannot wrap her head around that because she has so much hate in her heart for Courtney, Heather, and she even had like a whole celebration when Alejandra was eliminated. So she crashes out at both of them, yelling, freaking out. And Brick, who was originally going to like confront Mike and be like, hey, are you voting out your best friends? Because he's like really weirded out now because this doesn't even make sense. He instead's like, okay, this is not how you treat your teammates. So Brick, Gwen, and Courtney vote Lindsay, to which Harold and Lashana also vote Lindsay, and Mal doesn't really get a say in this, but he's like, I'll just vote Lindsay then, to not look bad. So, even though they don't see the votes, but he still does that. So, everyone votes Lindsay. Lindsay goes home crying, and is gone from the competition. So then, the villainous vultures, I'm going to say they lose our final round before the merge, and Heather and Izzy are like a freaking dynamic duo now. And by the way, I do want to say Mallow did his little thing with like whistling and breaking crap, but it was not nearly as much as in All Stars because I don't know why he was doing that. Also, Sam's game device and Sierra's phone aren't here to break since neither of them are in this season. So yeah. Then we have Ezekiel and Scott, who are like pretty much, okay, we gotta get Heather or Izzy out. So Ezekiel's like, let's get Izzy out. She's like the brains of the operation because they know next round is merge after this elimination. And obviously these two vote Ezekiel for betraying them. And they both spend the episode trying to convince Justin, but right at the beginning, Justin says his mind's already made, or right at the end. And it's been made this entire time. And just like when him and Annie Maria voted originally, he thinks Ezekiel and Scott are gross and disgusting. So he votes along with Heather and Izzy, Ezekiel, and Ezekiel's out. So no, I don't give all my favorite characters plot armor because he, along with Scary Girl, is my favorite character and he didn't make the merge. So boom. So this leaves our merge cast, or leads to our merge cast with Mike Mal, Harold, Lashana, Brick, Gwen, and Courtney from the Heroic Hamsters, and then Izzy, Heather, Justin, and then Scott for the Villainous Vultures. Now, Izzy and Heather automatically are like, okay, we're going to Mike Mal, because they're all three in the merge now, so they would have liked to have Ezekiel, but they couldn't have him running around with the whole being a traitor thing, especially with Scott still in the game. So they have the three of them all here, and then Mike and Brick are, or Mal and Brick. Brick goes up and confronts Mal and is like, hey, I don't know why, but the only way it makes sense, because I know I haven't voted for Zoe or Cameron, the only thing that makes sense is that you voted for Zoe, at least Zoe, but also Cameron. And Mike's like, yeah, can I admit something to you? Mal is like, can I admit something to you? Yeah, I have this evil personality, but I defeated him. He's gone now. That's why you're still here. It was really hard for me, but I didn't want to show it to anyone. Little did Brick know, and Brick's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about that. If you need help, you can talk to me. Little did Brick know, this was Mal talking to him. And we'll say Mal still has the eye bags, but he doesn't have like his hair comically evil, right, like that. So Brick can't tell. So that is Mal. And then, so the two of them are friends again, quote unquote friends again. And then Heather and Izzy are with them, so he convinces Brick by saying, oh yeah, Izzy's just crazy, and Heather's trying to be a better person. Which after World Tour, Brick's like, you know what, I can see that being true, and I'm pretty sure you also got rid of Alejandra. So then, on the rest of the merge team's dynamics, we have Harold and Lashana, and Justin has nowhere to go now because he knows the Heather and Izzy are done with him. So he needs some protection. So he goes over to Harold and Lashana, which have blossomed into like an actual official couple at this point, which I know some people don't like, but some people don't run this channel. I run this channel. So these two are together now. Plus, I didn't know what to do with them outside of that. So Justin decides to start flirting with Lashana, and it's working a little bit. And Lashana knows she shouldn't be doing it, and Harold's like really pissed at Justin, and a little Lashana, but mainly Justin. So then over here with Gwen, Courtney, and Scott, Gwen and Courtney are like really, I mean, they're besties now, pretty much. They're best friends. They love hanging out, and yeah. So when Scott comes up to Courtney to ask her out, instead of them actually getting together like in the real All Stars, Courtney tries to lay him down easy, and it's like, "Hey, I'm sorry. You seem like a great guy." She's seen the thing. She knows he's a jerk, but she's into jerks. I mean, she dated Duncan for what, 2 seasons? But she's like, well, I just had a bunch of drama with my ex, and I really am not looking for anyone to date right now. Scott, who has 0 social skills, sorry. Hey Google, turn off. Sorry about that. Anyways, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Scott is trying to like ask Courtney out, and he doesn't really get a no, so he's gonna continue trying to ask Courtney out and making her more and more pissed at him instead of just trying to let him down easy. So Izzy, at the end of the first merge challenge, Lashana wins the immunity, and Izzy comes up to Heather, Mike, and Brick, and basically says the best strategic move for us is to get rid of Gwen. This is because she knows Justin is working Lashana, or is trying to work Lashana into an alliance, but she also knows like there's like a 10% chance that works, especially with Harold around. So she knows that's gonna backfire on Justin. So she wants to leave that to be an easy vote off for Justin at some point, or Lashana, or Harold, or whichever one of them later. She also knows she's seen Scott's asked out Courtney like 3 times at this point, and Courtney's gotten more agitated each time, but Gwen's calmed her down. So she's like, all right, so the best play would be to get rid of Gwen. That way Courtney and Scott are gonna get more and more mad at each other, and aren't gonna or not, well, at least not Scott, but Courtney's gonna get really mad at Scott and blow up, and that'll be a huge thing. That'll take any suspicion off of attention off of Heather, Izzy, Mike, and Brick. And Heather and Mike really do agree with this, but it doesn't matter what Brick thinks, because Brick's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of mean. I really don't think that's a good idea for poor Courtney. And they're like, well, yeah, but you gotta think it's just a game. He's like, okay. So the 4 of them vote Gwen. Gwen and Courtney vote Scott. They still convince Izzy still has Scott convinced that she's gonna help him get with Courtney. So they roped Scott into voting Gwen. So that's 5 votes. 2 votes Scott, 5 votes Courtney. I mean 5 votes Gwen. And then Harold and Lashana vote Justin, and Justin votes Harold. So that leaves us with 5 votes Gwen, and Gwen being out in episode 11. Okay, then there's episode 12. And for episode 12, Lashana wins immunity, which was going to be their original plan to vote out. So instead they're like, okay, we'll try to make people more loyal. Izzy's thinking this. So let's just go ahead and get Justin out. So the 5 of them vote Justin. Courtney votes Scott, and then Harold and Lashana also vote Justin. Justin votes Harold. 7 votes Justin. Justin is out of here. Then Scott and Courtney in episode 13 absolutely lose it. Like Courtney, like this is the climax of their big freaking explosion. Yeah. So, and it's really bad. And they decide, all right, this has gone on long enough. Let's go ahead and actually switch up, because we feel Scott or Courtney in this emotional state, if we eliminate Scott for her, she'll be more willing to help us. So the four of them vote Scott and get Courtney in it while she's crying. And she's like, Duncan and Scott, and Gwen, and who she was rude to, and everyone is stressing her out. And freaking, they send Brick over to comfort her, and Brick actually comforts her. And the five of them all vote out Scott together. Then Heather accidentally lets it slip about the whole Mal thing. Brick and Courtney didn't know about Mal, but Courtney overhears it and knows she wasn't supposed to. Izzy knows someone was there, and Courtney knows Izzy knows. So Courtney runs away as fast as she can before Izzy can see her. It's like in the lunchroom where the three of them are talking about it, and she runs off and is gonna find Brick. For Izzy's like, where are you going? She's like, I'm going to the bathroom. He's like, why are you running? He's like, to get some extra steps in. Yeah. And Izzy's suspicious as crap, but she's like, and it cuts to a confessional, and she's like, she better not know, or we're screwed. Courtney knows, so Courtney goes to Brick and is like, oh my goodness, all this stuff, and Brick doesn't believe her at first, but she eventually convinces him with the whole, then how the heck is Zoe and Cam gone? And he's like, well, Mike had his evil personality, and she's like, no, I just overheard them talking with Heather and Izzy, and it's still there. He's been tricking you. So during the challenge, Courtney and Brick don't pay attention to the challenge. Instead, they spend the entire time trying to convince Mike to come back, and Mal's like fighting it, Mike's fighting it, and instead of being pushed with a big button, because that's BS, Mike actually just comes awake because freaking Brick says, oh my goodness, Zoe's gonna fall, and Mike comes back and overtakes control of his body again, and he's like, is Zoe okay? And they're like, yeah, Zoe's fine, but you're not. And they explain it to him, and he's able to fight off Mal for good this time, or at least for the remainder of the season. Maybe not for good, probably for good. Doesn't matter for the story. So, because of this, though, the only 3 people participating in the challenge or 4 people were Izzy, Heather, Harold, and Lashana. Harold and Lashana got distracted, though, because they saw and were trying to see what was going on halfway through the challenge. So it comes down to Heather or Izzy, and at this point, Izzy already had a hunch, so she was already trying hard, but after Heather finds out, she tries hard, and Heather's like, you gotta help me. They're more likely to not vote for you than they are for me. To Izzy, they're like both right at the end running, and it looks like it's gonna be a tie. So Izzy's like, I'm good, and just freaking trips Heather, and Heather falls to the ground, and Izzy takes the immunity. And because of that, the 3 of them, along with these 2, all vote off Heather. That's not Heather. Vote off Heather in episode 14. So yeah, and everyone knows about Mal, although now it's back to Mike, and everyone knows, or everyone thinks though, that Heather was the one who did it, that like turns Mike into Mal, because Izzy just keeps acting even more crazy than usual around him, so they're like, yeah, no way she's smart enough. And Heather is who Izzy put all the blame on, and also Heather is Heather, so Harold and Lashana especially, but also Courtney, Mike, and Brick all just assume it's that, which Mike does not remember anything with Izzy trying to turn him into Mal, so, because she was secretive about it. So, in the next challenge, Izzy does win immunity again, a little bit of nice plot armor, and Mike and Brick plan on not voting Courtney, at least not till the final 3, because they want to thank her for staying with them, or not staying with them, for helping Mike, and technically staying with them after, but helping Mike get over and finding out. So the 2 of them decide, okay, well, I'm assuming that she's going to vote with us. And the other 2 of them are like, we should have an OG cast final 3. These Avengers only had 1 season. Come on, Courtney. She's kind of torn about it a little bit. But she eventually decides to cut Lashana, because that's going to be a lot, or not Lashana, sorry, Harold, because that's going to be a lot, they're a lot less loyal than Mike and Brick are going to be. So, in the next challenge, Courtney wins immunity, and she's going to try it. Everyone's super happy. And They're celebrating. Izzy's super angry and she's super sad, and they all vote, and it's one vote Court. No, not one vote Court. It's one vote Mike to 4 votes Izzy, and Izzy stands up and starts to leave. And so, just like the other fan-made season, episode 16 is revealed to not be an elimination episode. Ooh, baby, do we love some plot armor here on the Bad Boy 37 channel. So, with our actual final 5 episode, Izzy wins immunity again. And Courtney goes up to Izzy, reluctantly, of course. And it's like, hey, Lashana's desperate. Although I know that once Mike and Brick get to the final 3, if I don't win that, then I'm screwed, because they're going to take each other to the finale. And they would, because they're like really good buddies at this point. So Izzy's like, you know what, sure, but as long as you pledge allegiance to me, and only me. And Lashana does the same. So Courtney goes and meets Lashana, and they both do it, but obviously neither of them mean it. But Izzy's like, it's good. She'll take anything at this point. Izzy will, because she's more desperate than Lashana is. The only thing she's got going for her is that she's a challenge beast. But honestly, that's really not gonna give her too much confidence, because by definition, all 5 of these people should be challenge beasts. So the 3 of them decide. Courtney still likes Mike a lot more, not in like a love way, but just and feels bad for him. So they vote Brick, and also Brick's definitely the biggest physical threat outside of Izzy herself. So Brick is eliminated, and at first Mike's a little bummed, but Courtney's like, I'm sorry, it's just what I had to do for the game. And Brick and Mike are like, hey, it's okay, I understand, it's fine. So then it comes to the next game, where Courtney wins immunity, and in episode 18, Izzy's like, all right, great, so we'll take out Mike then, right? And she's nervous, but she's like, Courtney and Lashana pledged allegiance to me, so hopefully they'll do that. Obviously, Courtney and Lashana don't do that because Izzy's a bitch now, and Mike obviously votes Izzy because, you know, hacking his brain for almost the entire season and making him eliminate his girlfriend and his one of his best friends, Cameron. So the 3 of them vote out Izzy, and there goes our main villain of the season. I hope you'll like Izzy being the main villain, because I really enjoy it. I also like pairing her with Noah and Eva a lot from that. That's kind of like in the Total Drama Island special. That's gonna be used more in that big ultimate showdown season that I have going on right now. So Izzy is out, and Mike wins our final 2 challenge, or our final 3 challenge, so he gets to choose who to take to the finale. And he's like, Lashana, you're a great person, I know you're a fan favorite, and I really hope you have the best in life, but I'm sorry, I gotta go with Courtney for helping me so much throughout the season. So Lashana is eliminated in episode 19, and we have our final 2 of the season. Now this one technically could have alt winners since it's all stars, but I'm actually going to give Mike the non-winning ending and Courtney the winning ending for 2 reasons. One, Courtney did way more than Mike this season, because not only did Courtney help Mike stop being Mal, but Courtney had her whole thing with Gwen, with Scott, with Duncan, while Mike really didn't do anything by himself and was barely even there for like the first 2 episodes and the last 6. The last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he was only there for like less than half the season. So he doesn't deserve to be the winning ending here, but I feel like he still deserves, or the canon ending, but I feel like he still deserves an ending. But yeah, overall, I think this is my all-star season. Also, for the helpers, by the way, Courtney gets Gwen and Lashana, while Mike gets Zoe and Brick. We'll say that. And we'll also say that Mal, laughed at Zoe, so she thought he was still evil. So he has to show that to her at the beginning of the finale. Because he laughed at her whenever she got eliminated. And they were in private on the, the toilet of shame or whatever it was, the flush of shame. So, yeah, and then Brick's also here, and then we have Gwen and Lashana. But yeah, I think Courtney and Mike are our 2 winning endings, and I think this would genuinely be an insanely good season. I think this would be better than Action. And if y'all see my my Total Drama review, our ranking tier list thing, then y'all would know that that's my 3rd favorite season right now. So this All-Stars would be above that, and the reboot season 3 I made would probably be above Action, but not above, well, no, probably above this, because Scary Girl won, in an actual legit way. But yeah, this is my season. I think there's a lot of good twists, while also having the finale that should have been in normal All-Stars, and I think I just wrote Mal better. I wrote Courtney better. I wrote Duncan better. I wrote Heather and Alejandro better. I wrote everybody better. The only thing I would really add to this season is Duncan and Mal. I liked their hint of a past relationship. Not, obviously, you know what I mean by that. But it didn't go anywhere because they had to do Duncan's good boy arc. I wanted to fit that in here somehow, but I really didn't have much place for it since they weren't ever going to be on the same team and Duncan didn't make merge. So I just decided to scrap that. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye. Boop.